Hey guys, good morning. Hope you're well. So don't listen too much to investors, VCs, even people like me. And what I mean by that is no one really knows how your idea is going to develop. No one knows how your business is going to if your business is going to succeed or how it's going to grow. No one knows, right? So you want to get people's take on things, obviously, right? You want to run things by quote unquote successful people, but no one's lived, first of all, no one's you, right? And no one's lived your life the way you've lived it, and no one is feeling about your idea the way you are, or has the idea on how you want to execute it. Only you know that, and only you feel that. So you don't want to be so bullheaded, obviously, that you don't listen, but you also don't want, and the point of this video, you don't want to fold your idea or do something, right? So the other extreme of being too bullheaded, where you just fold too early, or you don't follow through because somebody said something, or somebody said something that wasn't nice, or said your idea was terrible. You don't want that either. And I'm thinking about some kind of examples that everybody would know or easy to research. But like for FedEx, for example, it's a well-known story that the gentleman who had that idea back in college got an F in business school, on his business plan for FedEx. The quote-unquote smart professor, right, who knows everything in business school, told him it was a terrible idea. Well, we all know FedEx today, and that guy made a good bit amount of money, and business was successful. And a lot of people were successful from it, working there, investing in there, created a lot of jobs, a lot of prosperity for the communities that it was in, and it is in today. So there's an example, and some others will come to me as I'm talking here. But even in my own businesses, even with iUnit, the name I've got a lot of pushback on. The idea of using factories to build apartment buildings, which we've done, right? So you get a lot of people telling you that it's not possible, or it's a crazy idea, and sometimes that might mean you're onto something. And an investor, especially, what I found from investors is, not all of them, but a lot of investors feel like they need to make you feel like they know everything for you to trust them or raise money from them. And I think the better investors, the ones that I trust, are the ones that would talk like this to me and say, hey, I'm not an expert in what you're doing. I have an idea how you want to execute it. Here's my feedback. Here's what I think. Here's the things I would watch out for. That type of approach. And that you definitely want to listen to, right? Because that's good constructive criticism and good feedback, and everybody needs that. Because you also have entrepreneurs that are too bullheaded, where they can't work with anybody, they can't take advice, and then they really don't quote unquote succeed. Their companies never take off. They have a hard time having employees work with them, and also raise money from investors. So it's really finding that middle ground, which is everything in life, the middle way, and staying true to your message, to what your gut feeling's telling you. That's really, at the end of the day, the voice that you have to live with, answer to, is your gut feeling, that little voice inside of you that's telling you what idea to work on, what, you take a stop sign, you take a left turn or right turn, right? Because those are internal decisions that you have to make, that no one, unfortunately, not your parents, but your parents can help you with those decisions, your spouse can help you, but at the end of the day, it's got to come from your core, what you feel deep inside. And also, misery loves company, and I'd hate to say it, and that's another message I don't see much talked about on YouTube, is you also have a lot of investors, a lot of people who want to give you advice, advisors, mentors, people that can be negative, because they're negative themselves, things that happen in their life that they're not too happy about or they haven't worked through, and so they're a Debbie Downer, right? They're jaded, they're angry, they're bitter, right? And you definitely want to stay away from those people. And sometimes those can be people of higher positions that have a good bit amount of money. I've had investors that would not work again, that were just lousy people that just be, that's the other thing you gotta watch out. Just because they have money and they know that you're raising money, that they feel like it's that they can't treat you a certain way, right? Being disrespectful, and that's obviously not right, and you shouldn't have to put up with that. But it happens, right? I know when you're just starting, you know beggars can't be choosers, that saying, and there might be some investors that you just kind of cringe a little bit at, but they're willing to give you a check. So I get it. I've been there, and I hope that going forward, I won't have to. I'd like to think I've got better folks that I'm working with, and I won't have to do that again. But those people can have negative talk, right? And you don't want to listen. That's the point of this video. The negative talk or the know-it-alls, or really the main point of this video is no one really knows at the end, right? Even you don't know, right? None of us know what your business idea is going to be, right? And I can guarantee you this, like I've said in many of my videos, and I keep saying, is the idea you have today, if you make it 2 to 5 years down the road, yeah, it might be in the same vertical, in the same industry, but it's most likely going to be an entirely different idea, right? And it's not a bad thing, but no one can plan for that. You kind of roll with the punches, you kind of maneuver a way around opportunities, where the flow is, the flow of sales, right? And the business tends to go in directions that you didn't plan for it to go, and that's okay. You got to be willing to go along with that. And that's life in general, right? You might have plans, and life might have different plans for you, and that's okay. You have learned to embrace that. Again, to be the happy 83-year-old, which I always talk about, right? I want to be the happy 83-year-old versus the bitter 83-year-old. Both 83-year-olds had life happen to them. I just one chose to view it differently and take the high road and learn and be thankful for those experiences, and the other didn't. The other didn't move on and became bitter and angry at the world. So, be mindful of the people you surround yourself with. Take everything with a grain of salt. Stick to your guns, right? That's the other thing. To your mission, right? Only deviate if you get somebody's advice, and your gut feeling says, "Hey, that's actually really good advice," right? And you should totally take that advice and make a change, right? But you got to feel it in your gut, right? And that person that you're talking to doesn't align with who you are. Then don't take advice from it. It's not because they have a lot of money. I know a lot of wealthy people that are miserable people, but I also know a lot of wealthy people that are great people, right? There's everything in every segment of the population, right? So if you want to go look for it, it's there, is what I like to say. Or the Henry Ford quote that I like all the time, that I've used before in these videos, and I'm sure you guys heard about as well before, is he used to say that, hey, if you think you can do it, and if you think you can't do it, you're right. So you just got to decide which narrative you're gonna believe and which one you're gonna go after. But for sure, network, right? Talk to different people. Share your ideas. Ideas are somewhat worthless. It's all about execution. Everybody's busy doing what they're doing. They don't have the opportunity, the time to go and chase down that idea and really execute it the way it needs to be executed, and also the way the way you're going to execute that business idea is totally different than how I would execute it, right? And that's also what brings magic to a business. That's why the four things, right? Idea, execution, luck, and timing. Execution is a big part of it, and how you execute it is your trademark, is your brand, right? It's how you see it. So stick to that, right? Because we only got one life, and it's yours, and back to 83-year-old, you want to look back and be proud of the things you worked on and how you did it, right? And to just keep working hard, keep searching, keep tuning into these videos. I'm trying to give the message not only from my experience, but also things that I'm not seeing as much on the internet talked about. I think these are just cold hard truth, at least that I've realized, that are little nuggets that I think if you take a few of these, you'll be further along and give yourself and your business a higher probability of succeeding. And when I say success, it doesn't equate just to money, right? It equates to finding what you're about, what your life mission is, getting to your wisdom, getting to your truth. That's what life's about, right? That's what the word success, to be of service, to love yourself, to respect yourself and others, and love yourself and others, and be on this journey. That's what it's about. That's also the point of this channel. That's the word success, right? There's a lot of people I know that have quote unquote success money wise, but I wouldn't call the other pieces as being successful. So you really want to be sure that you focus on the right definition of success, right? And not the one that you hear in social media, right? And in the media itself, because that's what sells clicks, that's what gets traction, but that's not what leads to happiness, at least not what I believe. And that's why I'm trying to give an entirely different message. So I know I got a little bit off track on the main topic, but I think you gotta get the gist of it. So be sure to like, subscribe, comment. That helps get the message out to others, and happy to help any way I can. All right, guys, have a great day. See ya.